Think of a clockmaker who carefully puts together every part of a complex clock. The clock works exactly as it should, predictable and precise. But here's the question. If the clockmaker knows every tick and tock before, is the clock truly free? This is where we start with the paradox of predestination. Do we control our future, or do we just watch a story that is already written?
That's a deep question, Michelle. Some people say that knowing the future doesn't stop someone from having free will. Philosophers like St. Augustine and Boethius think that even if a maker knows what will happen, we still make our own choices. History shows that this question about predestination has interested people for a long time. But if every choice is known, is it really free?
Good point, Guy. Let's look at it through science. In physics, and especially in quantum mechanics, things are not always predictable. The double-slit experiment shows that at the smallest level, things happen based on chance, not certainty. So, does this unpredictability mean there is room for free will in our universe? Or is it just covering up a deeper certainty?
Interesting thought, Ryan. We should also think about psychology, which says our sense of choice affects how we act. Research shows that when people feel they have no control, their decision-making gets worse. So even if this paradox seems abstract or theoretical, it really affects human psychology and society. But does knowing about possible predestination make it harder to be responsible for our choices?
It seems we are dealing with many linked questions. With theology, science, and psychology in play, are we getting closer to solving the paradox, or are we still just looking at the edges? Maybe this problem shows our own limited view, pushing us to rethink what true freedom means in a universe that might follow hidden rules. Imagine a big cloth with many colored threads. Each thread is a moment, a choice, or a future. If the person making it knows every pattern that will happen, can each thread really choose its own way? This is like the paradox of predestination. In history, have we really thought about this conflict between knowing the future and having free choice? Or do we just follow paths that are already there?
That's an interesting picture, Michelle. This question is not new. Augustine said God's knowledge doesn't stop our choices. During the Reformation, John Calvin focused on predestination. This belief caused big changes in society. But here's a question: if these changes were because of this belief, does it mean predestination happened through hidden social forces, or did people's actions change things? Could it be both, showing a complicated mix?
Good point, Guy. Let's look at science. Chaos theory is helpful. It's predictable, but very sensitive to starting conditions, leading to complicated random results. If the universe began from an exact state, does that mean everything is planned in a wild, random world? Or can complexity be where free choice happens? Think of the philosophical ideas if tiny quantum uncertainties affect big choices.
That's an interesting view, Ryan. On a psychological level, what people believe about determinism or free will affects how they act. Some studies say believing in determinism can lower motivation. Maybe instead of making people less responsible, predestination makes us think about our paths, pushing us to find freedom in what we're given. Does this change how we see responsibility and motivation?
These different ideas make a complex picture. Predestination, whether true or not, reflects our understanding of freedom. Here's a question for everyone. Could seeing these hidden patterns of predestination help us change what freedom means? Maybe freedom is not about choosing paths, but about understanding and questioning the paths we see. Imagine you are in a cafe, drinking coffee and reading a newspaper. Suddenly, you see an article that tells the future events of your life, all true. Here's the big question: if everything is already predicted, do you still have the freedom to choose? This talks about the paradox of predestination, and we try to see if destiny is fixed or changeable.
That's interesting, Michelle. People have thought about this for a long time. The ancient Greeks had oracles who predicted the future with mysterious messages. But here's the twist. Knowing these messages sometimes made people act in ways that made the predictions come true. Was it fate or choice that guided their paths? Maybe knowing about the future changes what happens, making it a loop.
That's interesting, Guy. Physics gives us something to think about. Look at the second law of thermodynamics. Things move towards more disorder, But chaos theory shows order in randomness. Small changes can make a big difference. Does this mean our choices are just results of complex starting points? If quantum mechanics with its uncertainties is involved, are results really unpredictable, or do we not understand everything yet?
That's an interesting point, Ryan. Psychology plays a part here too. Studies show that thinking we have control and believing in free will affect our well-being. People who feel they can change things are often happier. If believing in free will shapes our actions, even in a world that might be set, does it become real in shaping our life?
That's a good point, Sonia. If believing in free will changes our experiences and reality, even if it's just an illusion, does it give us freedom? Or are we just telling ourselves a story of control in a universe that might be set? This asks another question. Is the effect of believing in free will not fully understood yet? Could we be finding a new kind of freedom in how we deal with the patterns we see? Maybe it's not about predicting or being sure, but about how well we understand and live life. Here's an interesting fact. A survey found that 59% of people think their lives are already planned by destiny, but 78% of these people also believe in free will. This makes us ask if we believe in both destiny and free will. What does it mean for our daily choices? Can these beliefs exist together, or are we trying to fix a big contradiction?
That's fascinating, Michelle. In history, cultures often mixed destiny and free will. In the Roman Empire, astrology often decided what emperors did, yet they still thought they were in control. Cicero, a Roman thinker, talked about fatum as a mix of destiny and human action. But when emperors listened to the stars, were they proving destiny, or were they showing free will? Did believing in astrology make its own truth, mixing fate and choice in surprising ways?
Guy, you mentioned astrology. Let's think about classical physics and quantum mechanics. Studies show particles can be in many states until watched. This unpredictability made scientists like Stephen Hawking say that small uncertainties allow for free will. Is freedom just about these small changes, or is there more? Do these changes give us real choices in a mostly fixed world?
That's a good point, Ryan. In psychology, learned helplessness shows that thinking you have no control is bad for motivation and mental health. A University of Tokyo study showed when people think they can change things, their brain activity goes up. This means believing in free will might help us do better, even if the world is deterministic. Does this mean thinking we are free is more important than actually being free? Or does it mean our thoughts change reality, mixing what is possible with what is planned?
These ideas make us think deeper. If history and science say destiny and free will exist together, how should we think of freedom in life? Could it mean our freedom is not about choosing paths, but about questioning them, using our beliefs to change our experiences? Maybe the real question is not if we are free, but how we act within the limits we see. Are we just following planned paths, or are we creating our lives by understanding and changing? Did you know that almost 70% of people in the world have at some time felt déjà vu? This feeling is interesting. Is it a look into a set path or just a trick of the mind? This takes us back to the paradox of predestination. Are our choices real, or are we just following a plan already made by fate?
That's an interesting question, Michelle. In history, déjà vu was connected to destiny. In ancient Egypt, priests looked at dreams and signs, and choices were influenced by these signs. If people made choices using these mystical signs, were they making their destiny or following what was already meant to be? Also, do we see signs differently now, or are we still finding meaning in random things like before?
A thought-provoking perspective, Guy. Scientifically, déjà vu is often considered a memory anomaly. However, quantum physicists are delving into the fabric of time and consciousness, questioning the linearity of time itself. If our perception of time, and thus choice, is just a construct, does this support the idea of a predetermined destiny slowly unfolding? Or can these scientific inquiries uncover new dimensions of choice previously unexplored?
That's interesting, Ryan. From a psychological standpoint, déjà vu could result from the brain's method of merging new experiences with existing memories, which crafts our coherent sense of reality. This cognitive familiarity can boost our belief in predicting outcomes, potentially impacting our decisions and emotional well-being. Does this mean that while practicing what we assume is free will, we're just following preset mental patterns? Or could understanding these patterns enable us to break free and create new pathways?
When we think about these ideas, an interesting play between what we see and fate appears. Could believing in destiny change how we think and affect our choices? Is real freedom in how we see our experiences, not just in the choices? We might need to ask, are we making our own lives or just giving meaning to a story already written and bringing it to life with our understanding? Here's a puzzle to think about. Some cultures say the stars can predict our life paths. But if the stars show a fixed future, does that mean every choice is already planned? Or does believing in it change our future? Like, can belief itself lead to things coming true?
That's a big question, Michelle. In the Renaissance, astrologers influenced royal decisions. But despite their predictions, people like Galileo promoted science, suggesting maybe the universe is not so fixed. Were astrologers guiding fate, or were the royals making their own choices?
Interesting, Guy. Let's look at recent science. In the brain, studies show decisions happen before we know it, suggesting a type of destiny. But other scientists say this doesn't cancel free will. It just adds more to what we know about our minds. Are we both writing and reading a story our brains start to write before we know it?
That's an important point, Ryan. Psychology says feeling in control is key to motivation. The internal locus of control theory says people who think they control their life often do better. If believing in free will helps us, could it make destiny not matter to us, showing that what we believe is stronger than what is real?
So if old astrology and new brain science suggest destiny, but psychology offers another view, are we closer to solving the puzzle of destiny? Or do these views just show we don't fully understand freedom and choice yet? Are we actors following a set path, or can we change the script with our belief in free will? Think about this. In quantum physics, Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead until we look. Could this mean our choices are many until we act, mixing destiny and free will? Are our decisions like choosing one path from many?
That's an interesting idea, Michelle. History shows debates about reality, like Zeno's paradoxes, which have fascinated people for years. If ancient thoughts suggested many realities, are we just looking at these old debates with new science? Are we revisiting fate and choice?
Good point, Guy. Quantum mechanics says the universe is full of options waiting for us to choose a result. If every choice decides one reality, do we have control, or does the universe quietly steer outcomes so human choice is just a surface idea? This makes us question control and observation.
Ryan, that's important. Psychologically, seeing potential is key to creativity and innovation. When we believe many things can happen, don't we try to reach our dreams? Even if fate is real, does thinking we have choices push us forward as much as reality? Can our mind create motivation layers, no matter the truth?
With science suggesting endless options and psychology emphasizing choice, does this paradox make our search for meaning stronger? Might true freedom come from seeing the choice illusion, leading us to live truly in a mostly set universe? Maybe the mystery is not just what we choose, but how we live with those choices.